So here's where we are. You're this mediocre student as undergraduate studying sociology. You have a professor that recognizes some ability and brings out kind of the best in you and gets you to a track toward getting a master's degree in sociology. You're exposed to Adler along the way. Everything's going well. You get through that. Then you go to the seminary as you would have planned to do, and somewhere along the line you realize that's not going to be what you want to do, that you want teaching is your calling. So, but sort of along the same path. So you're teaching. You've got this office mate who comes from a completely different background in business. You're starting to do industrial sociology. So how does that career end? But you're still tracking towards being a professor. What's the next turn, and what's that turning point, and what prompts that?
Well, my office mate, Frank Capel, was a delightful guy, and so we ended up being close friends, talking about all kinds of things. But we talked a lot about business, and everything he had to say was learning for me because I didn't know anything about business. But I could pick up on it. I knew what he was talking about, and I would ask him questions, and then I let him know what I was teaching and what I'd been learning, and then he would tell me that there's all kinds of applications for stuff like that, business. And he kept, we just had a very good conversation that actually went on for about 1.5 years. And then one day he turns to me, after I've been asking him questions, and he's been giving me answers, but then he asks me questions too. He turns to me and he said, "You would make a great consultant." And it just hit me broadside.
Just out of the blue.
Yes, but I loved it, actually, because I'm learning to be dependent on these people who are coming along and giving me gifts. You know, I got a professor makes me come alive as a senior, and then I meet another professor who helps me come alive and learn about Adler when I'm a first year in my master's degree. And then I go away to seminary to teach, as you say, but then I get a call out of the blue to come and be a teacher. Now,
new path.
New path, and it sounded good. And I thought, well, I'll do it for a semester. Well, I got into it. I liked being a teacher. My classes were full. Life was good. I liked lecturing. I liked the response, the give and take. Being a teacher was good.
But when he says you're going to be a great business consultant,
well,
so how did you respond?
That didn't come for about 1 year of our getting better and better and better acquainted. And when he said that, I was already at the point where I knew this was my last year of teaching. And so he said that, and I said, "Sounds pretty good." And he says, "Well, you got to get to know some people, and you got to know what consulting is all about, so you got to meet some people who are in the profession." And I said, "Well, I don't know anybody." And he said, "Well," he said, "I know a good place for you to start. It's with a man named Gardner Heydrich." And he said,
of Heydrich and Struggles?
Of Heydrich and Struggles, the search firm, one of the majors. There are 3 or 4 really major firms. But he is a big name. And he said, I'll call him and tell him I got a friend here at the school that he ought to meet, and he could give you some advice. So to make a long story short, he set up a meeting, and I had a meeting with Gardner Heydrich in his house in Hinsdale, a nice suburb just west of Chicago. Had me come after dinner, spent about an hour, hour and a half with me, told me all about the executive search business, told me about consulting in general. He said, "We don't have anything for you because you have no experience." But he said, "I see that you have something to offer, so I think you need to start meeting some people downtown. You need to line up some interviews with consulting companies, tell them that you'd like to consider this business, and just have some interviews, see what happens, see what you learn." So I did that. I started making calls. I started tapping into everybody I knew who knew anybody in business that would help me get an interview, that would help me learn what it's all about. Long story short, I had lots of interviews, maybe 15 or 20.
So who hired you?
Well, there is a story that really does impinge pretty importantly here. I've told you about Gardner Heydrich. You know what a leader he is. He's one of the major search firms, but an equally powerful search firm is Spencer Stewart and Associates. And I was able, this is the way it works, a friend of mine who was a minister of a Presbyterian church up in Wilmette had a guy in his congregation who worked for Spencer Stewart and Associates. And he said, I'll set you up with an interview with him. That man, Rudolf Dahlmeyer, spent an hour with me and said, you know, you could be good in this business, but you don't know anything. And he said, you ought to go get a job with a company like Zenith, where you can learn something about human resources, and then maybe in 2 or 3 years, maybe you could come and
Go
work.
into industry.
Go into industry, get a job with a corporation, get into a human relations department, a human resources department of a company. So at that time, Zenith was a big company, much more acceptable and a leader than Motorola, which later passed it by. Anyway, I did get an interview at Zenith, but they said there was really no place for me. So I do remember I was pretty discouraged. I'd had a lot of interviews. Everybody was courteous. I did get job offers from 2 of the great companies in consulting, in fact, as good as they come. McKinsey and Company and Booz Allen both offered me jobs to come in and be on staff to be of service to the company itself, to people who work within Booz Allen and work within McKinsey. And I said, thank you very much, but I really want to work with clients. And so I passed on those, but nobody else offered me a job, and I was feeling pretty blue. And I do remember, just as clear as a bell, on a Friday, a Good Friday, I went back to one of the consultants that I had met. It was a consulting psychologist. And I said, gee, Chuck, everybody's been courteous. I've had lots of nice conversations, but, you know, I've come close, but no cigar. And he said, you know, there is one company in town that just might have an interest in somebody like you and would bet on the future, which you might represent for them. It's a company called Case & Company.